Hi, we're going to talk today about slope. Slope is also called the rate of change, and it shows how one variable changes in respect to another. So when you think about things, when we talked about ratios and proportions, we talked about how many dollars per pound something cost, or how much you get paid per hour. Those are considered rates of change. And when we're looking at a graph and we have a straight line, the rate of change is the slope of the line. It's about how steep it is. The slope, a ratio, which is a fraction of the rise, that's how much it's going up or down as we move across the page, to the run, or how much it's moving over from left to right. And also that can be called the change in y, so like this, if we subtract the y's, if we subtract the x's. We'll talk much more about how to find the exact slopes when we are in algebra class, but in general, if the slope is positive, then you should notice that the line is going to be increasing from left to right. So as we move across the page, now keep in mind, it could be steeper than this, it could be flatter than this, but they are all higher on the right than they are on the left. So those are all positive. Negative slope, from left to right, the line is getting lower. So again, it could be steeper, it could be very flat, almost horizontal, but it's still lower on the left than it is on the right. Those are all examples that have negative slope. So it doesn't have to be exactly like the blue line. It has very much a range of more precise positive and negatives, but it will go down from left to right if the slope is negative. If the slope is 0, that means the line is horizontal, so it's not going up at all. It's just going over, but it's not going up. And then the last one here, if the slope is undefined, if a line is vertical and it goes straight up, we just can't even describe how steep this is. This slope is called undefined. Another reason it's undefined is because, remember, slope is rise over run. So the rise might be some number, maybe 5, but it does not go over at all. So the run would be 0. And if you try on your calculator 5 divided by 0, it will tell you there is an error. We cannot divide things into 0 parts. So a 0 in the bottom, if there is no run, no side-to-side movement, that is undefined. On this next page, we actually have some things to fill in about slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, and it's, I believe, written below also in big letters, but I'll just go ahead and write it up here. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. But the m and the b would actually be numbers. There would be a y and an x, but the m and the b would be two different numbers that would replace those things. So when we look at an equation, and if it's in slope-intercept form, it's very easy for us to identify two pieces of information. The slope, slope-intercept form, right? And when it says intercept, it's very specifically the y-intercept. And the y-intercept is where the line crosses the the y-axis. Oh, whoops, hello, sorry about that. The y-axis. Where the line crosses the y-axis. Remember, that's our vertical axis. That's what intercept means. That's where it crosses. So in the equation, the m represents slope. And the slope tells us how to move. Think of m for move. It tells us how to move between points. The slope is written as a fraction, just like we saw on the last page. It's written as a fraction representing the rise over the run. And besides being called rise over run, we could say it's the change in y over the change in x. So more than one way we could talk about that. Usually I will use the words rise over run. The letter B, and sometimes you'll see that more written as a lowercase b, but my lowercase b looks way too much like a 6, and so I don't like to use that. But that represents the y-intercept and tells us where to begin our graph. So even though it's the number at the end, it's the one that tells us where to begin. So if I want to graph a linear equation, you begin with B, and move with M. So to help you remember, begin with B. The B is the one at the end. That is where we begin, and we move to a second point with the M. So on the next page, we're going to try a few. I'm going to go through like one from each page, so you'll have some examples. All right, this is on that next page, and we're going to make a graph from slope-intercept form. So first, it's a good idea to identify your M and your B. So remember, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So this number that is in front of the x is the m. And this number that's out here at the end is the b. So if you look at that page we just filled out, we are to begin at b. And b is the y-intercept. So this vertical axis is our y-axis, right? So I begin on that line at -4. So we begin right here. That's where I'm going to begin. And then I move to another point using the slope. So since the slope in this case is 1/4, and that is the rise over the run, that means we're going to go up 1 and over 4. And that 4 is positive, so the over, where are the positive on the x? They go to the right. So from the point that we just graphed, from the B, I'm going to go up 1. That puts me here at -3. I don't make a dot there. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So I kind of did this. Up 1, over 1, 2, 3, 4. And I might touch that, but I don't usually draw that. And then 1/4, we could also do as down 1 and left 4. Think about why that works to go down 1 and left 4. So fractions indicate division, and remember, if we have 2 negatives in division, yes, 2 negatives make a positive, exactly. So if I went down 1 and left 4, I want you to notice that those 3 dots can all be connected with one straight line. Hold on, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my straight line. There we go, that's probably a little better. Sometimes if I make my dots too big, then I'm really kind of in the middle of the dot. Our lines should be extended, so don't just connect two dots and make a little tiny line segment. The line should extend through the graph and have some arrows on the end because the line actually continues on forever. So you don't need to have what I have on my graph in brown. That was just for me to help you see that that is the y-axis, and that's why that's where we begin. So we began at -4 and we went up 1 and over 4. All right, so we're going to go to the next page and look at one that has negative slope. All of them on this page have positive slope, so the line should be getting higher from left to right. These are all negative slope, so my lines will get lower from left to right. So again, it's going to be helpful to identify what is your M and what is your B, and that can be as simple as writing M and B under the numbers, or some people like to write out to the side M is -1/2 and B is 3. And then remember that we begin at B, and the B means the y-intercept. So if the y is by itself, you are beginning on the y-axis. So y is 3, that's here. And then from there, we're going to go down 1 and over 2. Down 1 and over 2. Down 1 and over 2. Now, some of you may have wanted to do this. You may have wanted to go down and left. But if there's a negative, the negative is really only with the top or the bottom. Because like we just talked about, if there were two negatives, it would make positive. So we could go up 1 from our begin point. We could go up 1 and left 2. Up 1 and left 2. Notice that all of those still line up, right? They're still lining up. And not only are they still lining up, I should also notice the slope is negative and the line, as I move across the page from left to right, the line is going down. Okay, so if the slope is negative, the line from left to right needs to be going down. So you guys can tell I've been doing at least one problem with you and then leaving you with 3 to practice. I'm also going to assign something on IXL so that you have more practice with this and you can get some immediate feedback for each question if you're right or wrong. All right? Okay. So these fractions, when I look at my slope, my M, it just says -3. But I'm supposed to have rise over run. Well, we can make any fraction or any number a fraction by putting a 1 under it, by putting the number over a 1. Or sometimes people just write it there. I do not want to make it 3 over 3, because 3 over 3 is really 1. It's -3 over 1. So we're going to start in this case at 2. Some of these are positive slopes, some are negative. I'm beginning at B, which is at 2. And then after I begin at 2, I need to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. So I went down 1, 2, 3, and then over 1. You can continue to follow that same pattern. It helps you draw a straighter line. You can also very carefully line up your dots. Oops, that one is not in the right spot. I also could go up 3 and make the negative sign on the 1 because it finds the next point to the left. You don't have to make as many points as I'm making, but if you only have these 2 points, when you connect them, sometimes when people connect them, they end up like kind of being off, right? And then if I'm off and I'm not careful when I connect them because my ruler moved or my line drifted, remember that it was here and then it should be down 3 over 1. And then going up it should be up 3 and over 1. And it's not going through those points because I didn't make my line. I didn't line things up quite right. So that's why personally I like to make additional dots, use my slope more times if I can, if it fits, because then it's going to help me to have more guidance on the points to make sure that things are being connected well, that they are going through where they should. Looks like I still kind of missed the dot up here a little bit. So it happens to the best of us. But it's at least a way that helps me to not be off so much. All right? I just can't leave it that way though. Sorry. There we go. That's better. And so I don't really have something to line things up on the computer. I just have to pick 2 dots, but it won't keep lined up past that if I'm not careful. So anyway, the nice thing on IXL is you click the first point, you click another point, and it automatically extends. So IXL is beautiful for this. If you just see an X, how many X's is that? It's just 1 X, right? So this means that my slope is 1, so I'm going to do 1 over 1. And our B is negative 4. So negative 4, up 1 over 1, and definitely when they're this close together, it is not acceptable to just do this. No, that's not acceptable. So the closer they start out, the more you want to make some more points, or it very easily drifts way off by the time you get across the page. Notice number 9, the slope was negative and it's going downhill from left to right. Number 10 looks like I'm climbing up a hill from left to right. The video is getting a little longer than I intended. In class I would have paused and let you finish things. So I hope as we've gone, should have said this before, but like after I do one example, I would try the ones on that page, then listen to me do the next example, try the ones on that page, and so on. Instead of listening to all of this and then trying all the different kinds at the same time. All right, so that's just a little piece of advice. If you haven't finished the other ones on the earlier pages, please pause the video, go back and finish those, and then come back to this. I think it will work best. So, if you're still with me, I'm going to assume you've already done that now. Remember, you can always pause me or rewind and listen again. So, these are all going to be slopes that are undefined. And these lines, you might notice, they look different. They don't have very much information, right? So when we have an equation that only has x, It only has x. It's just x equals some number, right? There is no y. When it only has x, you're going to start on the x-axis, and you're going to make a vertical line. Vertical meaning straight up and down. That's why it has undefined slope. So x is equal to -3, so I'm going to go to -3. And x does equal -3 right here, but guess what? It equals -3 here, and here, and here, and down here. X is -3 all of these places. Now, you probably don't need to make all of those dots because you can just trace this vertical line. So this is the time when we are going to start on the x-axis because there is no y in the equation. And that's when it only has an x. Sometimes something like this can trick people. That is not the same thing. That has a y. It does not have only x. So this is not a vertical line. It's a line where b is 0, actually. So if there is only x equals some number, you're going to go to the x-axis, to that number, and then it's going to be straight up and down. So all of them on this page should be straight up and down. And then on the next page, these are all going to be horizontal lines. They have 0 as a slope. Notice they only have a y. There is no x in the equation. It's like there are 0 x's. That's why the slope is 0. So this is only a y. There's no x. So it's just y equals a number. So we're going to start on the y-axis. We're still going to begin on the y, but it's going to be a horizontal line. So we're going to go back to starting on the y, not the x, the y, but it's going to go across. So where is y -3? Well, here, and here, and here, and here, and here. All those places. The x is changing, but the y is -3. Any place on that horizontal line, the y coordinate would be -3. So if there is only y equals some number, it will be a horizontal line. These next graphing problems, on this page, they've called it backwards slope. It's not so, I don't know that it's backwards. It's just that we have to find the point to the left instead of to the right because we don't have enough room to go the direction we want. So we are back to having a slope and a y-intercept. These are not any special equations that only have x or y. So I know that this is my m and that's my b, including that sign. So my b, my beginning point, is at -3. And then what I really want to do so badly, I want to go down 7 and over to the right 4. But down 7, oh my, I would be way off the graph. And my graph would not be very accurate if I don't have boxes to count anymore. So keep in mind that a negative, if it's a negative slope, the negative can be with the top or it can be with the bottom. And when a negative is with the bottom, that means that we're going to go left 4. So we're going to go up 7 instead. I know it seems weird because we're supposed to have a negative slope, but if I go up 7, but I go to the left 4, I'm over here. And then when I connect those, even though, didn't connect them very well, let me try that again. There we go, a little better aim that time. Even though I went up, do you see that my slope is still negative? From the left side of the page to the right side, it is going down. I'm going to go all the way down to 24. All right, on 24, our slope is 9, and our B is 4. Well, we know that 9 is 9 over 1. But from 4, I don't want to go up 9. I am going to be like on to the next problem or something. It would be so far off the top of my graph. When something is positive and I don't have enough room to go up, when the slope is positive, I should say, and I don't have enough room to go up, I can go down and left, because 2 negatives in the slope make a positive. So from the 4, I'm going to go down 9 and left 1. So I really, like, a lot of times I only use left if I cannot go the direction I want, or if I'm trying to make some extra points. There we go. So I end up with something, didn't make that quite perfect, but notice from the left to the right, as I move across the page, the direction we read in English, it is getting higher, because the slope is positive. And then your other page of graphing is mixed up, so they will be like all the kinds you have seen on the last few pages. All right, so the next thing that I would advise you to do after this is that you're going to do IXL. So give me just a minute and I will show you just a couple of those IXL. Okay, students, so this is IXL. This is going to be in your recommendations now. If you don't see it in your recommendations, another term, then please ask me. But it is AA6, graphing a line from an equation in slope-intercept form. This first graph only shows quadrant 1, where everything is positive. We will see some that shows other quadrants, but right now it's just that one section of our main graph. We are still supposed to begin with B, which is 6. So I'm going to begin at 6 on the Y, and then use my slope. So I'm going to go up 1 and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice once I click to make the second point, IXL draws the line. I don't have to worry about being super straight. If I go up 1 and over 5 again, that would take me to this point over here, where you can also see that it's going through a corner. So we begin at 7, up 1, over 1, 2, 3. And click. So this one, we have a negative slope. We're still beginning at positive 9. We are to go down 9. That would be all the way back to 0. And don't forget, over 1. If it's a whole number, we have to move over 1, not just straight up or straight down. Notice after you get to about 50, it's going to show you the entire coordinate plane, not just quadrant 1. Okay, so the first questions, it's only showing quadrant 1. Still doing the same thing. -6 is on the y-axis. That's my B. I begin with B and move with M. So from there up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and over 9. Now, I didn't count to 9 quickly. I knew that over 9 would be on top of where 9 is on the x-axis. Notice my slope is positive. It's 7 over 9. That's a positive, and it is going up from left to right. So that's what the first lesson is like. Again, you can watch a little video here on iExcel also. The other lesson is AA14, and it is about the horizontal and vertical lines. So probably having those pages in your notes available. So y is equal to -1. It does not have an x. So I start at -1 on y, and then we need to go somewhere else. It doesn't matter. Anywhere else, but when it's only y, it is horizontal. I could have clicked here, or way out here. It doesn't matter, as long as it's staying perfectly flat. So if it is only a y, it's going to go straight across. You do have to click a second point, or it will not make the line. If I just do this, but I don't click, it's not going to make the line. So I have to make sure I click somewhere where it's making that nice horizontal line. This one is only x. So it may give you 4 questions in a row with y and then switch. Now it's only x, so I go to x-axis, -4. And then remember now, any of these points, because the x is always -4. Click, and it's going to be a vertical line. All right, if you tend to get those mixed up, please look at your notes. That will be helpful. So my apologies that I didn't have some of these videos created for some of you in 2023 right away, and so I hope that this will be helpful for you to go back over this, and good luck to you, and I'll see you soon.